if Christine didn't just leave a bad marriage? What if she had barely escaped a predator who'd been circling her for years? Tonight, David unleashes a theory so dark, so explosive, it could rewrite everything we thought we knew about Sister Wives. And about the man who is shaping Christine's life from the shadows. Will Christine get away in time? More is the real danger only just beginning? Quick cuts of Christine smiling with David, old clips, photos of Cody and the family, moody slow zooms, dramatic text. Did Christine escape a predator? David's explosive theory. This episode of Sister Wives Season 20, Episode 7 doesn't just give us drama, it gives us a warning. Somewhere between Christine's new happiness with David and the ruins of her past, a terrifying question is forming. Was Christine's faith, loyalty, and need to belong exploited by someone in her life? And tonight, we're breaking down David's explosive theory, not as proven fact, not as a legal accusation, but as a theory about emotional predation, manipulation, and control. This video is commentary and opinion based on a reality TV storyline and public information. We are talking about emotional and psychological manipulation, not about making any factual criminal claims against anyone. If you're new here, hit subscribe and tap the bell, because we dive way deeper than a normal recap, and if you think Christine dodged something really sinister, stick with me until the end. You're going to see Season 20 Episode 7. Through different eyes. Christine and David are sitting on a couch laughing. Quick contrast. Christine in old scenes looking small, tense or apologetic. The episode starts soft. Christine glows next to David. We've seen this version of her before. Free, flirty, almost giddy in this new monogamous life. But then, there's this little crack. A passing comment, a weird flinch, a look that lingers on half a second too long. Christine laughs off a memory maybe. It's about how she used to apologize for everything, or how she felt guilty anytime she wanted time for herself. Everybody in the room bursts out laughing. But David, DOESN single quotes, T. He studies her. And this is where David's whole energy changes. He's not just the fun, goofy husband anymore. He's the man who has watched this woman wake up from something. And he's realizing, maybe even she still has no idea how dark it really was. I don't think Christine understands how much certain people fed off her. Someone saw how trusting she was, and they took advantage of that. He doesn't use the word predator. The show never says that. But the energy of what he's describing, that's exactly what fans are hearing. He's talking about someone who feeds off a person's devotion. Is that someone who's worshipped, obeyed, and never questioned? Someone who sees kindness, not as something to be protected, but as something to consume. Dark background, white text. Predator does not equal automatically criminal. Predator equals repeated pattern of exploiting someone's vulnerability. Let's be very clear. When we say predator in this video, we're not accusing anyone of a crime. We're talking about a pattern where one person is always smaller, always apologizing, always bending, rearranging, and erasing themselves, while someone else grows bigger, louder, more entitled, more demanding. If you've watched Christine over the years, you've seen this. She was the peacemaker, the one who took one for the team, the one who swallowed her own to keep the family calm. Left past Christine tearfully says she just wants to be valued. Present Christine, who is laughing but then goes quiet when past stories come up. So when David uses words that hint at someone feeding off Christine's devotion, Season 20, Episode 7 stops feeling like just another chapter in a messy divorce. It all begins to feel like the escape scene from some psychological thriller. The question isn't just, was their relationship unhealthy? The question now is, was someone drawn to Christine because she was easy to control? That is the core of David's theory. Not that some random monster appeared out of nowhere, but Christine's loyalty, her upbringing, her desire to please, made her a target. A dinner with family, kids, perhaps friends, lots of background noise, plates, and laughter. There's a moment in Episode 7 that plays like normal reality TV. Until you really listen to what's happening, Christine is telling a story. Maybe it's about the early days in the plural marriage. Maybe it's about how she used to feel guilty for wanting affection, or how she'd get in trouble for speaking up. Everybody laughs like it's just quirky family history, but watch her eyes. They glaze over for a second. Her smile freezes. That is not nostalgia. That's muscle memory. David catches it. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't call it out in front of everybody, but later, in his one, he drops the line that flips the entire episode. David, you don't talk about someone like that if all they did was make a few mistakes. The way Christine shrinks when she remembers him. It's as if she still hopes to not set off a predator. That word, predator, isn't actually spoken on the show, but David's words are exactly that. A person who watches your reactions, learns what makes you compliant, punishes you when you step outside of the role they wrote for you, and rewards you when you stay small and obedient. Christine wasn't just unhappy, she was conditioned, and David's finally saying the quiet part out loud. Graphics pop up as he speaks. Let's break down David's theory as the episode implies it. This is not to say the relationship is a court case. Instead, it is more of a psychological pattern. 1. Christine was taught that suffering equals holiness. Christine is taught from a young age that the more one sacrifices, the more value she has. Her pain becomes her currency. Her silence is her loyalty. A predator doesn't have to create your vulnerability, they simply need to see it and profit from it. 2. Love was contingent to the affection she needed. It could be withdrawn. She could be wrong, disrespectful, or disloyal just for wanting more time, more attention, more honesty. So what does she learn? That love is conditional, and she is always one misstep away from losing it. This is a playground for emotional predation. 3. Public image versus private control. In public, the family appears as a united front. Happy, smiling, defending the lifestyle, but behind the scenes, we hear about anger if she questions decisions, dismissing her when she expresses hurt, isolation, once she stops playing her assigned role. If somebody needs to be shown as the hero, the leader, the righteous one, and they also need everyone around them to bend. They're not just strict or feeding off other people's submission. That's the peace David sees. 4. The calm. What David feels unfamiliar, and that scary, one of the most haunting things Christine says in her newer episodes is how she felt calm in David's presence for the first time in her life. Tranquility shouldn't feel foreign, it shouldn't feel suspicious. But for a person who has been gradually trained to live in anxiety, peace feels wrong. It's like that second of silence right before someone blows their top. David's theory: Christine does not yet fully understand that this serenity is normal. He thinks she escaped from someone who was feeding off her stress, fear of abandonment, and endless effort, not a monster in the shadows. A very human, very charismatic, very persuasive kind of predator, the emotional kind. David and Christine in a quieter setting, perhaps a walk, a car ride, or their living room. Later in the episode, we get what I'm calling the predator test. David doesn't sit her down and say, "Hey, I think someone preyed on you." He does something smarter. He asks her questions that reveal how she thinks about herself. David, when you look back, do you feel that you were loved being yourself, or for how well you played your part? Christine doesn't answer immediately. She hesitates, she looks away, because were she to say, "I was loved for me," then why is she still shaking when she speaks of certain moments? Why does she describe her own home like a performance stage she had to be perfect on? David doesn't need to accuse anyone by name. This isn't a debate. He's trying to win. He's trying to help Christine see the pattern. Someone loved what she gave them more than they loved her. And that, in David's eyes, it is predatory. Because it means her devotion wasn't just appreciated. Was used. The fandom is divided. Some viewers say, "Calm down. This is just a messy marriage, not some predatory mastermind." Others, especially those who have survived controlling relationships, are like, "No. This is exactly what it looks like when you finally get out and someone on the outside calls it what it is." Here's why David's theory is so explosive. It reframes Christine not as a woman who simply fell out of love, but as someone who slowly came to realize she'd been emotionally hunted, singled out because of her loyalty, and then punished for having needs. It reframes the past quirky dynamics as something darker, not just cultural, not religious, but strategic control. The minute you put the word Redditor even, just in your head next to scenes from earlier seasons, everything feels different. The silence, the excuses, the way she blamed herself, it ceases being random. Instead, it starts looking like a pattern. Christine and David on a balcony or porch with a beautiful view. Soft light. It should be safe. So, here's the most chilling question of the whole episode. Did Christine actually get away from the predator? Or just the arena? Because predators don't always disappear when you leave. They linger in your habits, fears, reflexes, and the stories you tell yourself to survive. If you still apologize for existing, if your immediate reaction is to say, "Should I feel this way?" If you're still waiting to get in trouble, then that person, that system, that dynamic, it's still inside you. David's theory isn't about labeling someone. It's about warning Christine, honestly, warning anyone watching. Just because you left, that doesn't mean the predator stopped hunting. Sometimes, the hunting continues through guilt trips, smear campaigns, pressure through kids or family.org, even just the echo of their voice in your head. In episode 7, you can see Christine still fighting that echo. She laughs big. She flirts. She dreams out loud with David. But every so often, her body remembers the fear before her brain does. That's why David is so intense. He's not just defending her from a person, he's trying to exercise a pattern. You might ask, why does it matter what we call it? Toxic, controlling, predatory, does the label change anything? Yes, it does. Do you say just a bad relationship? You leave room for, maybe I overreacted. Maybe I should have been more patient. Maybe it really was my fault. But when you recognize predatory followed by coldness. Control masquerading as protection, public charm, and private punishment, you stop asking, what was wrong with me? And start asking, why did they need me weak? David's theory is important in that it alters the ending of Christine's story. It's no longer just, she left and then she met someone new. It becomes, she escaped a system that fed on her. And now she's learning what love feels like. When no one is starving off your soul, that's a different story altogether. If you go back and rewatch season 20, episode 7 with David's theory in mind, the whole episode turns into a psychological thriller wrapped in TLC editing. It's not about just property, co-parenting, or new marriages. It's about power, who had it, how they kept it, and what happens when the person they fed off finally walks away. So, what do you think? Is predator too strong a word for what Christine survived? Or is David the first of them with the courage to call it as it really is, not just the marriage that miserably failed, but a pattern of emotional hunting? Drop your take in the comments with the hashtag Christine escaped if you think she got out just in time, or hashtag still trapped if you believe that the real battle is happening in her head right now. Make sure to like this video so more Sister Wives fans see it. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because in our next deep dive, we are going to unpack those exact moments when Christine's instincts were screaming at her, telling her to leave years earlier, and the subtle tactics that kept her staying. Until then, remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that someone wasn't just bad for you, they were feeding on you. And walking away from that, that's not drama. That's survival.